yourself. If people don't like you if you're being yourself.
Hey, welcome to the Millz Spill. Today's episode is something special. We've got a guest who's not only a powerful voice in her own right, but also carries a legacy you definitely know. She's a dynamic public speaker, a champion for women's empowerment, and the daughter of the late, great Bernie Mac, Janice McCullough. She's here kicking it with us, sharing her story, her perspective, and some real insight you won't want to miss. So sit back, tap in, and get ready for a great episode. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, and stay connected to the Millz Spill. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you. I swear, every time somebody introduces me, I'm looking around like, oh, she sounds great. Who is that? So thank you for a wonderful introduction.
Wonderful introduction for a wonderful person.
Thank you.
How was your day?
My day is good. So I'm an empty nester now. My daughter's away at school. So every day I'm still like getting up, and it's almost kind of like I have to remind myself, like, oh, no, it's just me. I don't let the dog out, walk the dog, and then it's like, oh, I only have to worry about me. So that's been a wonderful transitioning thing to, have to deal with. But the day started out when I got to sleep in, got to take my dog on a walk before, it got too hot out here. So we're doing, as my dad used to say, it's been fantastic.
So you get up, what time do you normally wake up?
So I'm perimenopausal right now. So it's pretty much whatever time P. Minnie tell me to get up. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's 2 and 3 in the morning. Sometimes it's, I got to sleep in until 8. Sometimes it's like broken sleep. Like I first woke up at 1 and I was up for like 3 or 4 hours. Then I got to fall back to sleep again at, 5. And I got to sleep till 8. So it's just whatever P. Minnie says. That's pretty much what I'm doing.
I do want to ask you, I want to delve into some of your venture of being an empty nester in just a little bit. I can imagine that you're coming up with like it's a transition. So there's a lot of things you're trying to find a new space to maybe do different things. And I definitely want to get into that.
All right, let's do it.
If your life was a movie, who would play you? Who would play your dad? And who would play your mom? And what would be the name of the movie?
So to me, and I've thought about this a lot. So to play my dad, I've said Aldous Hodge or Yahya Abdul Mateen II. I think he would be a good choice. And I've kind of played around with even Sterling K. Brown. Like if they shaved his face and let him go, I think he has the range to pull it off. So those were my top 3 choices to play my dad. My mom, I've always said Jill Scott. I think Jill Scott and my mom, like, I'm not going to say they favor, but if I saw Jill Scott on screen portraying my mom, it would be believable to me because I think they're both beautiful women. And then me, that one is interesting. I always felt like Zoe Saldana did a good job portraying his daughter on Guess Who. And I feel like looks-wise, she looks enough like she could be one of our relatives that I feel like she could play. And she still looks so young that she could portray me, from a young age till now. So those are my choices. As far as the title, I feel like the title should either be I Ain't Scared of You or Who You With.
Okay. I like it. You performed as a backup dancer for your dad in the 90s, correct?
Yes, when I was 14.
What was that experience like? If you were to say your most memorable moment in that time, what was that like?
So for me, the most memorable time was rehearsals, because it was just a perfect example of the way that my dad treated me and the amount of pressure that he put on me. And I remember in particular, there was this one particular rehearsal day where the dancers, we were just off our game. We couldn't get the steps right. And I always tell people, if you don't have a story about my dad cussing you out and going off on you, he ain't really love you. He might have liked you, but if you don't have one of them stories, like, man, he ain't love you. So this particular rehearsal, he ringed us. He went off on us. And then he turns to me and goes, and you letting them dance circles around you. This your dance. You're supposed to know what you do. And I remember just thinking, first of all, I am a freshman in high school, and these are professional dancers. What are you talking about? But that's just for him. He was like, "No, you mine. So you supposed to smoke everybody in it." And that for me is like the most standout thing. But as far as the performance itself, I remember the night of it. Like I remember in the front row, Michael Jordan and a lot of the Chicago Bulls were in the front row, and I remember just watching because I used to always watch the audience and their reaction to my dad, and this was his very first tour that he put together himself. And I remember there's a moment like where we were just standing on stage and just looking out at the audience and seeing their response and just thinking, wow, this is something that my dad, you know, just I'm trying to figure out. So, okay, let me put it like this. You can say today that you want to be a stand-up comic and people won't bat an eye. It makes sense because of the way the landscape of comedy has changed. It's plausible to people that you say you want to be a stand-up comic. At the time that I was watching my dad work to be a stand-up comic, that wasn't the case. So for me to be 14 and to hear him say my entire life, your daddy's going to be a rich and famous comedian one day, to get to this place to where not only is he making it happen, but he brought me in to be a part of it and to see the audience's response. I remember just feeling like, wow, this is amazing.
Because you weren't always you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Not at all. Not even. Listen, Bernard and Rhonda were. My mother was 18. My father was 19 when they got married. Like 2.5 weeks later, my dad turned 20. And then 4 months later, I was born. And at the time that they got married, they were doing okay. 1977, 78, they were okay because my dad had what was deemed a good job working at General Motors. But by the time I got to kindergarten, he was laid off from that job. And after that, he couldn't keep. Now, I tell people all the time, he could get a job. He could get a job like that, but he couldn't keep it. He just could not keep him. So we struggled. We moved around a lot. We had to live with relatives, for time at certain times. So no, the money didn't start rolling in until I was almost out of high school. And by the time that happened, I was so used to us not having that it was like, wait a minute, hold on. Like I remember specifically my sophomore year, we went school shopping for my clothes. And I was expecting, number one, the stores that we were going to. I was like, hold on. We get to shop at these stores? Oh, what? And then even after that, I was expecting us to have to go to the counter in the back, like I'm showing my age here, and do layaway because that was the thing. And I don't mean layaway like now with a firm in Klarna where you can get your stuff and pay as you go. No, you had to take it to the back to a different counter, put some money down on it, they would hold it, and then you could come back once you paid it all in full and take it with you. That's what I was used to. And my mom just whipped out the money and paid for it and was like, here you go. And I was shell shocked. I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can pick out all my clothes today and we can take them today? And she just goes, yeah. And I said, no, wait. I was like, no, we don't have to come back in like at the end of October or November, before Thanksgiving and do it. She was like, no. And that I just remember being like, color me. Wow. Like that was just an experience that I just wasn't used to. So yeah, I didn't grow up like, he wasn't the Bernie Mac you all know when I was born and being raised.
Now, I know that you were on the school choir, too, when you were in high school.
Yes. Oh, you look at you. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, I was in girls' chorus. Yep.
Yeah. So when you're up there, you're doing the backup dancing, you're seeing your dad is a famous comedian. Did you ever think, maybe I should just become a singer?
No. So for me, I did those things because I enjoyed them. But I was very self-conscious about being seen. So I didn't have, where my dad was like, here I am, look at me. I didn't have that. I was the more like, hi, here I am, but I'm just going to be in the background, okay, and if that's all right with you. So no, I never thought about doing any of those things.
Well, now you're being seen a good bit because you're a public speaker. How is that going from a person who doesn't like being seen to now you're speaking in front of audiences. You even had your podcast, and which I do want to get to that in a little bit. Have some questions about that, so we'll hold off on that. But you had a podcast of your own, the Bernie's Daughter podcast. How is that transitioning into public speaking now and doing these things, being a person who kind of likes to be more reserved, and now you're being more public?
So now today, I'm completely comfortable in my own skin, and I'm comfortable with it now. But when it first began to happen, which was after my dad's death, it was weird because I was so used to just stepping aside while the spotlight was on him. And then it just felt like suddenly in an instant, people were just putting a microphone in my hand and asking me questions and telling me, oh, you have to get up here and do this. And I was still looking to the side, like, don't you want to talk to him? Oh, that's right. He's not here. You can't talk to him. It has to be me. Oh, so it took a while for me to get used to that because I'm an introvert at heart. So give me my choice. My choice is going to be huddled up in the back somewhere not being seen. But today I'm comfortable with it because when I'm the type of person, I don't speak unless I have something that I think is important to say. So when I am doing, the public speaking and like how I was doing the podcast, and that was because I felt like I had something worthwhile to say. So I'm very comfortable doing that.
Your dad had a larger than life presence about him. And, there was, of course, the performer, Bernie, that we all knew, Bernie Mac. And then there was your dad. Were there moments where you saw the real side and what was the contrast that you noticed when you saw that? What's something that would surprise people if we were to hear it today?
Oh, the thing that I tell people all the time that will surprise you all is that in real life, that persona he had, that he was just so tough and I wish you would. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he let people walk all over him, but he was far more sensitive and he cared a lot about what other people thought about him, and he was far more mushy than people would think. He was the type of person, he was great at telling other people what to do. Like if it came to, oh, you need to walk away from this person, you need to do that. And you'd have to look at him like, well, don't you think you need to follow your own advice? Because when he was put in those same circumstances, it'd be, oh, I know, but well, they down on their luck. Oh, well, I've known for this long. He was that type of person, and not at all I wish. He was a softie. He was so sensitive.
So he was very much a giving type of person. I know he's family oriented.
Very much so. That was his guiding star. Family meant everything to him. And even with his friends, like I tell people all the time, he was cool with a lot of celebrities, but those weren't his friends like that. All of his friends were the same friends that he had since he was a child. So all the people that I knew and grew up with were the same people that my dad had known since he was like 7, 9, 10 years old.
I've heard you talk about, because you just mentioned where he said, oh, but they're down on their luck. So it made me think of this. But I've heard you talk about setting boundaries with people and, not let it, having boundaries, but having that balance between boundaries and empathy.
Yes.
Did you see where he kind of struggled with that? And where were some of the things that you learned?
Absolutely. He is where I learned it from. Like I tell people all the time, I learned so much from him, both directly and indirectly. And not just my dad, but just my family in general. We're not a family who sets boundaries. Now we're a family. We can get mad at you. We can cuss you out. We can give you a silent treatment and stop talking to you. But the thing that needs to get addressed doesn't actually get addressed. They'll argue about it. And like I said, we may stop talking to each other. And then just the thing that happens is time passes. And then it's just like, oh, okay, like nothing ever happened. And, the cycle repeats itself. And I remember as a kid, I would ask questions about it, but I would get in trouble for asking questions, and I would get told, family is everything. So it just never made sense to me. But I found myself in my own life repeating those same patterns, having relationships with people where it was like, I love this person, but when I look at this person's behavior towards me, I'm always complaining. I leave this person feeling drained, or this person has done me dirty. I don't know how many times. and it's the same issue, and we've had the same conversation over and over and over again, and I keep walking away pulling my hair out like, what in the world? Why won't they just act right? Until it hit me one day, and it really took me having my daughter to get to that place. Because I remember I kept saying things like, that's not good enough for her. I need to do something because I don't want her to follow in this pattern. And I said it so many times, and I heard myself repeating it one day, and I had to go, wait a minute. If this isn't good enough for her, why am I letting it be good enough for me? And that was, like, at the time, that was really radical. And I had to go, listen, I love her. And of course, I think she is deserving of happiness, and I want that for her. But she's no more deserving of happiness than I am. So why am I allowing this to be okay with me? And that caused me to have to restructure and give myself permission to change my mind, because I was very, like my dad, tethered to relationships, because that was the same thing with my dad, both professionally and personally. And even, I'll give you an example, just as far as his success and how everyone around us began to respond to that. I don't know if you've ever heard Oprah say, now nobody needs less than like $150,000. And in real time, that's how it was happening. It went from like, hey, can I get 50? Can I get 75? To then it was, can I get 250? Can I get 500? Can I get 7,500? Then it was, can I get 10,000? Can I get 25,000? Can I get 50,000? Man, I need $150,000.
He turned into Friday.
Yes.
Dude from Friday.
Yes.
I need $150,000.
Yes. That's exactly how it would happen. And, he would give money and give money and give money. And every time he would complain. So the people who, he was giving the money to didn't know how he really felt about it. Me and my mom were the ones hearing it, and it got to a point where I would be like, well, why don't you just tell them no? And then I'm the bad guy. If I tell them no, then I'm the bad. Then, they'll go say blah, blah, blah. And so that's the type of stuff that I witnessed growing up. So, like I said, it was once I had my daughter that I was like, no, some things got to change. We can't keep doing this.
It's a shame that happens. You see, of course, you want to help people that you love and you care about, friends, family around you when you are in a privileged position. But then at the same time, I think there's always that misunderstanding that it's almost like they feel like sometimes people can feel like you're just like this never ending well that's just continually flowing. They overestimate you.
Yes. And they stop treating you like you. You now become like the ATM and bank. Like one of my great aunts, and this is my dad's aunt, my paternal aunt. My dad's side of the family always called him Beanie. Like if you talk to anybody related to me from my dad's side of the family, you're not gonna hear them say Bernie. You're not gonna hear them say Bernard. They're gonna say Beanie. She stopped calling him Beanie and only started referring to him as Bernie Mac. So like if it was a family gathering and say he came separately from me and my mom, she would go, Janice, is Bernie Mac coming tonight? And I had to look at her and go, you mean your nephew? Beanie? Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, it's people just stop treating you as you. It just becomes, and like you said, it becomes never ending. And like you said, it for my dad, it wasn't about not helping because that's all he ever wanted to do. Like he used to give everybody $10,000 every Christmas. Just every Christmas. That it was here's $10,000. Here you go. Do it what you will. And I can say today, out of all the money that he's given to people, nobody today is in any better position today than they were when he was giving them the money. And it just got to a point where, well, when is enough enough? And it never was.
What's one thing that people would assume about being the daughter of Bernie Mac that is wrong? And what's something that would surprise people about you?
I think people think that being my father's daughter is easy in the sense that things come easily to me and people are like just breaking their necks to here you go. Never. I tell people all the time, I've been my father's daughter my entire life. It's never made anybody go, I want to give you stuff because that's your here. You need this. You want this here. It's never done that. It actually has been more of the opposite. And to my dad's credit, I remember I was 15, and it was it was after Def Jam, and I think he had filmed Who's the Man by that point. So it was kind of clear that, okay, he's about to blow up because movie offers and, to audition and stuff were coming in. And he pulled me to the side and said, listen, I got to prepare you because you're about to be hated. And he said, you're about to be hated for no reason other than you're my daughter and I take good care of you. He said, if I didn't take good care of you, it would fall back on me. People would go, that's a damn shame. Bernie Mac don't take care of his daughter. He said, but because I take good care of you, they're going to hate you for it. And then he finished it by saying, Boops, everybody got a ghetto story. He said, mine will be respected because people will feel like I came from nothing and built something out of nothing. Yours won't, because everybody will believe that you've had everything handed to you. And at the time, at 15, I heard him, but I couldn't really grasp what he was saying, especially because I was such a Pollyanna back then, too, that was just like, if you just love everybody, everybody will love you. So I was like, no, I don't accept that. No, I don't believe that to be true. And life kept happening, and people kept showing, and I one day was like, well, I'll be John Brown. He was right. So that's what I think would shock a lot of people.
You mentioned that you didn't always agree with your father's methods, but you understood his sincerity and his intentions behind things that he did. What's one thing that you've learned being a mother that now you understand your father a lot more?
So I definitely understand, and I can understand this because my daughter is also my only child. I'm an only child, and my dad was very big on me understanding that you're going to be alone in the world, and the world doesn't owe you anything. The world is not going to just give you things because you got a good heart, and he wanted me to be strong. Like, now this is where I say the method was messed up, because he was always, you soft, you weak, the world gonna tell you you want your kids to be strong. That's not the way to do it, but I get it. And so having my own child and her being my only child, I get it, because I think a lot about, well, if something happens to me, she's by herself. She doesn't have anyone that she can turn to and go, hey, and she just doesn't have, those just the cards that have been laid out. So I really do understand what he was trying to instill in me with that.
Yeah, I was talking with someone recently, and, for the most part, parents, and I'm a parent too, we're just operating, doing our best based on what we know from our perspective and how we've learned to do our best. We maybe don't agree with some of the methods of our parents. You can't really hold it against them because they were doing the best based on their perspective of what that was.
Yeah, and I get it, from my dad. The thing that I understand now today that I really didn't understand then is that a lot of his methods and behaviors was informed by a lot of loss. My dad had experienced so much loss by the time he even started dating my mom. Because he grew up in a multi-generational home where it was my grandparents, my great-grandparents, his grandparents, then my grandmother, my dad, and his brother, who was 10 years older than him, my great aunt, which is my grandmother's sister, her husband, and her 3 children, and then another one of my great aunts, who then later had a son. So they all were in the same house. So my great aunt, who had the 3 children, her oldest daughter, Vicky, died. And, during that time, people didn't talk to kids about death, so that was his first loss. And I think she died when they were like around 10 or 11. So that happened. And then when he was 16, his mom died. And almost a year to the day after their mom died, his brother died. And through all of those losses, no one really talked to him about it. My grandmother had breast cancer, and she had a double mastectomy, and it's still, like, the cancer had spread by that point. So she was really dying in front of him, and no one bothered to sit him down and say, hey, your mom has cancer and she's dying. They just treated it like, oh, okay. He even said he walked in on his mom accidentally after she had a double mastectomy, and he said, Mom, what's wrong with your chest? Like, what happened? And she basically looked at him and said, you got any business in here? She said, no. She said, okay, mind your business and get out. And that was it. So a lot of that, by the time he meets my mom and they start dating, this is what he's been dealing with, all of this loss that no one has talked to him about, that he doesn't have, the wherewithal to process. So for him, a lot of my childhood was informed by that, because he would say often, I may not always be here. I'm not going to always be here. And in part, it made him afraid. He actually used to say he wasn't going to live to see his 50th birthday. So, I understand. As a kid, of course, I'm like, what is wrong with him? But now, as a 40-something-year-old woman, and who's gone through raising my daughter, I get it today.
Yeah, it seems like with like my dad is the same generation as your dad, and I feel like especially like older black folk, generation black men, we were just taught to be so tough and so much like don't express things that are going on, even if you're going through a tough time. Like I remember my dad was he was hospitalized, and I mean he was like within inches of his life and everything. And I remember him being like, don't even visit, it's going to be all right. Just keep on. Like he treated it so lesser than it really was,
Yes. Well, okay. First of all, is he okay today?
He's okay today. This was years ago.
Okay. Yeah. But no, I completely understand. When my dad's health first started failing, the very first time he got pneumonia was 2004 while he was filming the Bernie Mac show, and he was in California, and my mom and I were back, in Chicago. Well, we lived in the south suburbs of Chicago at that point, but yeah. And I remember when we were calling, we were like, okay, we are getting ready to take a plane out, and just like you said with your day, no, y'all ain't got to come out here for that. It's all right. Like, I'm all right. Don't nothing bother me. I bother it. Like, we were like, but dude, this is the mom. And my mom was a nurse, so she's like, who you're talking to, right? You do know I understand pneumonia and what that is. And I'm fine. So I completely understand. You are absolutely right.
It's one of those things, especially like now my dad is even older, so I'm like, and I just lost my mom 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So actually, preparing for this interview here, I was like, it was almost like, oh man, I'm trying to, because I was watching some of your other interviews, and I was like, man, I feel so much of this because I understand, because I just lost my mom 2 years ago. But anyways, that aside, I was what was I about to say? I lost train of thought because I started thinking about that. But yeah, oh yeah, it's one of those things where it can be kind of scary sometimes, because especially my dad is older now, and I think to myself, I'm like, he still has that mentality, the old school black male mentality, where we're just like, we don't tell what's going on. So I'm like, Dad, you need to go to the doctor. You need to make sure you're getting checked out. And he says, it's nothing.
Yes.
But it's bigger than that. It's not nothing,
much bigger than that. Like, that's actually when he got hospitalized the final time, the first week, it was more serious than any other time, because this time he wound up in the ICU and on a ventilator. But I remember that entire first week where everybody else in the family, when they would come in the room and see him, they were crying. I didn't, because I was so mad at him, because I was like, this didn't have to be like this. You should have went. He wasn't feeling well like a week and a half before he finally went to the doctor, and we kept saying, you think you need to go to the hospital? Nah, I'm fine. I got a doctor's appointment next week. I'll be all right. I'm fine. And then by the time he gets to the doctor, she tells him, you have pneumonia. And she told him, sit right here. I don't have any beds yet, but I'm getting ready to go and clear some beds, clear a room to get you a bed, and we'll admit you. He tells her, no, that's all right. I'm going to go run some errands, and then I'll come back. And so by the time he only got rushed to the hospital because his body was in sepsis at that point and started breaking down. And that's how. So I was so angry with him for that, like that entire first week. Just like, we did not have. Why are we here? Why? And especially because we've been here before. You've had pneumonia several times already. You know you have sarcoidosis, diabetes, and hypertension. Why are you out here playing? Why? So, yeah, I say all that to say I get it.
Your dad was diagnosed even while he was still working. He was working while he was sick. What was it like seeing him go to work and he was sick? And what were those days like where you saw him outside of work?
Originally, the attitude, I kind of adopted his attitude because what people don't know is he'd been diagnosed with sarcoidosis back in the 80s. So he'd had it. It just, when he got sick, it got leaked as if he had just been diagnosed. But he got diagnosed with sarcoidosis in like 1986. He was diagnosed with hypertension in like 1989, 1990. And then he was diagnosed with diabetes in 1999. So we knew of, his health issues. The public didn't, but we did. So when he started getting sick, it wasn't even the sarcoidosis that was causing the illness. It was him and his resistance to being on. He had to think about being on prednisone. He did not want to be on prednisone. And I think for him, getting diagnosed with sarcoidosis originally scared him until the doctor, because at that time they didn't know much about sarcoidosis. And so they just put him on the prednisone. And she basically told him, well, if it's not causing any major impairments, go live your life. So I think he got accustomed to living his life with sarcoidosis and didn't think much of it. The hypertension, I don't think he thought much of it. They gave him the medication. He went on about his way and didn't think anything of it. The diabetes, I think, is what messed with his head because his great grandmother had diabetes and she wound up getting a leg amputated due to complications from it, and died shortly after. So I think that was playing in his mind. And so for him, he was like in denial a bit about being diabetic and that being, it running in the family. So he convinced himself, I'm only diabetic because I'm on prednisone. If I get off the prednisone, I won't be diabetic anymore. So when he first got diagnosed with pneumonia, he was in California. And, like I had to tell him, you are Bernie Mac. You're going to these Hollywood doctors. They'll do whatever you tell them because they know you got the money and you're good for it. So he told the doctors out there that he didn't want to be on prednisone. So they said, okay, we'll try some other drugs. So they tried an entire class of immune suppressants, which I immediately, and my mom, because again, she's a nurse, we're like, you have an autoimmune disease. Going on an immune suppressant is not, you just shouldn't be doing it. So the second time he was hospitalized, that's when he had them switch him from prednisone to methotrexate. He had a toxic reaction to the methotrexate, got hospitalized. So they said, okay, well, we won't do methotrexate. We'll do Plaquenil. He had a toxic reaction to the Plaquenil. They said, okay, we won't do Plaquenil. We'll do Imuron. These are all immune suppressants. So it wasn't for me like the public where you all didn't know and you all were thinking, oh, it's the sarcoidosis and he's still going to work. We knew it's not the sarcoidosis, it's the medication. Get your butt back on prednisone and you'll be fine. So at that time, watching him work, I was more concerned with, one, you need to get back on prednisone, and two, you need to take some rest because you're putting your body through a lot of unnecessary strain. Rest first, and then you can get back on the board. But he couldn't because he was in the middle of, I think it was season 3. I think it was season 3 for the Bernie Mac show. And then he was also supposed to be filming the sequel to Ocean's 12 and Transformers. Like, his part in Transformers was actually supposed to be bigger, but because of the hospitalizations, and then that pushed the schedule for the show back, and then that pushed his time in Ocean's 12 back, that pushed his time back in Transformers. So it was just frustrating watching him just be hard-headed. When it was like, okay, well, if you have to work, make it easier on yourself by taking the prednisone. And he just had to get forced back on prednisone because Imuron was the last drug that they tried. and he just so happened to have the toxic reaction. We flew back home to Chicago, and his pulmonologist in Chicago, essentially, she was a woman. Like, I no offense to the men, but she was a woman, and she said, "Listen, I know you hate prednisone, but prednisone works. So you're going back on prednisone." And she put him back on prednisone, and that's when he started getting better. So it was my long-winded way of saying it was just very frustrating watching him do all of that to himself.
Because you all were trying to tell him to really take a break and really focus in on this thing.
Yes, take a break and then just do what you need to do for your, whether you like it or not, is at this point, this isn't irrelevant. We want you here and we want you healthy. You keep trying to do stuff that's only making you sick. And, I can sympathize with you being like, I don't want to be on prednisone, but that's the thing do you want to live or not, man? And that's what it was boiling down to.
I saw where he said, he was talking about one of his jokes, and he talked about how if it's not true, I can't tell it. So it almost sounded like the way he was talking about it is that comedy is like a form of therapy for him. It's a way that he expresses himself. And then you're a public speaker and you speak. And do you think that that's also like a therapeutic for you, being a public speaker in the same sense, possibly?
Yes, because my guiding force has always been, I do it because I know what I've been through, and I know when I was going through, the things that I've gone through, how alone I felt, how down and out I felt. And I think that's a thing that everybody does. You go through something and you feel like you're the only one, and it's easy to, like you have blinders on and you're like, no one knows, but no one understands. And I always say, if it's just one person, I speak because it's what I've been through. So if I can just help one person who is currently where I've been to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, get, you're not alone, and to get a lesson that it took me forever to get. That's why I like to speak.
All right, I want to play a game real quick with you called What Would Bernie Say? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain a situation, hypothetical, and you're going to come with your father's type of response. What would that look like? So you can do your best impression. But what would that what would that look like? Whatever response it would be.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. You're dating as a grown woman who's been through grief and wants real love and respect. What's Bernie's no-filter dating advice?
Oh, that's easy. First of all, I won't use the words that he would use. Basically, think of him as Uncle Vesta. F him. That's number one. Don't. He used to say it's a lot of. He called them Pams, punk ass mofos. He used like a lot of Pams out here in the world. So don't even worry about it. The other thing he used to say is, if you're gonna date, watch me, because he had a thing about hygiene. So he would be like, watch his tongue. Look at his tongue. He don't even brush his tongue. Look at his in between his hands. Look at his feet. Like he had to think about that. So he would go, if a dude's tongue is white, that means he don't brush his teeth. He don't brush his tongue. What you think he gonna do for you? He can't even take care of oral hygiene. How he gonna take care of you? Like, so he basically, and he would say, always have your own. Don't depend on no Pam for nothing.
Someone online criticizing how you're grieving or living your life publicly. What would Bernie Mac say?
Once again, F them. F them people. They ain't you. They don't know what they're going through. People, I can tell you verbatim people love bumping their gums. Like, don't pay attention to nothing they got to say. If it ain't you, it's gonna be somebody else tomorrow. F them.
I like that advice. I like it. I think that actually that mentality is the fuel behind a lot of people's success, where you can just not care about what people say.
It really is, because, and I say this as myself, I used to care so much about what people thought about me to where it paralyzed me. I either wouldn't make choices, and just let stuff passively happen to me, or I would make my choice, but I couldn't even, sit in enjoyment for the choice that I made, because I'm so busy looking like, well, what is that? Because they're going to say this, they're going to think this and do that. There's so much freedom that comes when you stop caring about what people have to say. And he's right. People, if it's not you they're going to talk about, they're going to pick somebody else. People love to speak a whole lot about lives they've never lived and things they've never experienced. So, yeah,
F them.
pretty much. Exactly. Just like that.
Yeah. Society tells you always to be strong as a black woman, especially after losing your father. What would Bernie say?
Once again, so
It's always going to be F them.
it's gonna always be effing people. It's gonna always be that. But he was big on being strong. But I think by the time he got to the end of his life, I think he understood that being strong wasn't necessarily about what society tells you to do, like have no emotion, be repressed and shut down. So I think at 50-year-old Bernard, because that's who we only know. We don't know who he'd be today. I think it, like you said, one is going to always be effing people, but I think he would say, be strong the way that you know how to be strong. Don't try to be strong the way someone else tells you how to be strong.
People constantly comparing you to your dad and saying you have to be funny like him.
Once again, effing people. Effing people. But he used to tell me I was funny. Like when we would talk and, have conversations, he would go, man, you funny. He was like, people don't know. You funny. And I had to tell him, well, of course, look, you could not be funny around my dad because he was one of those people that loved to Jones so much. You had to learn how to give it back to him just as good as he gave it. So you couldn't just sit passively back and just be like, no. So I think I know what I find funny, so I think I'm funny to me, but I don't think I'm funny in the way that my dad is funny. Because my dad, I tell people, comedians have a different brain. Like they will find the funny in I mean anything at any time. Don't get me wrong, that can have its place, but that's where you have some, sometimes when they say really off color stuff that the general public is like, I can't believe they said that. And you see, by and large, most comedians are like, you can't say nothing no more. Because to them, nothing is off limits when it comes to being funny. I don't have that part. So I'm not funny in that same way. I know my lane and I'm okay with it. So, yeah, once again, it's just effing people.
You're trying to have a peaceful day. It sounds like a lot of it's going to be effing people because I can imagine this question him say F those people, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you anyways. You're trying to have a peaceful day, but a friend or family member keeps trying to put you in some drama.
Pretty much effing people. Effing people, and if you don't like, and he would, one of the things he would do, like if there was somebody around you who was like that, he'd pull you to the side and go, hey, they better watch you. You better watch them. Like, watch your back around them. You better go ahead and get them somewhere. So that would be one of those where he'd be like, no, you got to go. you drop them off somewhere, and then you come on back and have yourself a good time. But yeah, it's always gonna be effing people.
A young comedian steals your father's joke.
That has happened. That has happened so many times. So that's one. He was always way more diplomatic professionally than he was personally. So when comedians would steal his joke, it would bother him, but he wouldn't go on a whole tangent, and wouldn't go off, and it wouldn't be, I ain't never, man, F that dude, he didn't do that. What he would do is just craft another joke. And his philosophy was always, I know he stole it. He know he stole it. The audience doesn't know because the audience only knows who they heard it from first.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, and this was before social media age where everybody, can record and do all that. So he would go, if they steal my joke, and the audience looks and sees that this is their joke now, I'm not gonna go out there and blast him. He stole my joke. I'm just gonna craft another joke, go a different way. And that's kind of how he treated that.
Okay. I know because there was a lot of drama. Everybody saw it with the Cat Williams calling out a lot of people. And I heard one person say that comedians that kind of happened all the time. That was something that kind of happened a lot.
Hmm.
I don't know how true that is.
Oh, absolutely. You could have comedians on the same show. A lot of times there's several shows in one night. So there could be a 7 p.m. show, then a 10 p.m. show, like that. So you could go do material, during your 7 p.m. show. And then the guy who goes before you at the 10 p.m. show could do your whole set from the 7 p.m. show. And you left looking like,
Wow.
hold on. He just did my whole
Wow.
set. Yeah, that happens a
Wow.
lot. Hmm.
Wow. I would assume now it's probably more challenging to do that because social media. So your dad coming up in the era was like way tougher because now you got people stealing jokes. You got to make new jokes. Today's age, it's going to be hard to do something like that because they're going to see you on social media like, hold up, he just took that person's joke.
Yeah, and even with social media though, it's still hard to prove because again, it's just a matter of who the audience saw. That's who the audience is going to believe, whoever they saw do the joke first. So you could be two comedians who just did an open night mic, here where there weren't any cameras or anything, no one recorded, and you do your joke, and then this other comedian is like, oh, that's funny, and then they go to like the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory or something and do your joke, but this is one that's recorded and gets posted. Guess who everybody believes is the owner of the joke? And it's such an ingrained part of our lives now. Social media is everywhere. So it's just, I wouldn't want to be a comic in today's landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Here goes one. You go on a date with a guy and he tries to do a Bernie Mac impression and it's really corny. What does your dad say?
So this is one where this wouldn't be effing people. This would be, he meant well. Just smile and nod and just smile and nod. Like he wouldn't want you to crush somebody's confidence like that. Now, me personally, if it's me, I'd be like, don't do that again. Don't you don't have to do that again. But for him, he would have been like, he meant well. Just smile and just nod.
Mhm. Did that ever happen to you before?
Oh, it happens all the time. Even when I was at college, once people found out that was my dad, people would just walk up to me and start reciting his jokes and, doing stuff. And I would just be looking like, so that's my dad, right? I've heard him. I've heard him when he was workshopping the jokes. I've heard him, once he honed them and crafted them. I don't need your impersonation of it. And everybody thinks they've done it like, oh, it's so funny. And I'm like, but everybody has the same idea. So for you, this is one moment. For me, this is number 3,566.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I saw a clip where it was Jeremy Suarez. They tried to put Jeremy on your father's lap and he was like, no, you stand to the side of me. Oh, you're not doing that. And, were there times where you saw where your father was really setting boundaries or stories that you heard of him teaching his cast members? Of course, Jeremy was a young man at the time, so he's teaching them how to set boundaries.
Oh yeah, he was like that with ask anybody that he worked with, the kids, because they were all kids, them extras, anybody, like he referred to himself as a talkologist. If he hadn't been a comedian, he could have been a teacher or a preacher or something, because that was how he approached conversations with people. It was always some type of lesson for you to get from it. So I witnessed it all the time when he was on set.
You've learned a lot about the entertainment industry before your dad's passing, but even in the aftermath of your dad's passing. What's something that has maybe surprised you or something that you've learned about just people in the entertainment industry?
There is no loyalty. You in the industry, it is, you may come across one or two people, who have some sense of loyalty, but other than that, it is all about how much you can do for other people. If you could be on top today, and let's say, next year, 2 years from now, you down here, good luck. Good luck getting people to, treat you like you were here. I always say, and this is no way, in any way, shape, or form, any diss to Monique, because I completely understood what her gripe was. But comedy is not like, academia or something where it's tenure. Because at one point she was listing off her gripes because she was like, I've been at this, I've done this, and she's really, really right. She's absolutely right. If you look at her resume, she's absolutely worth what she was asking. But the entertainment industry is like, yeah, that's what you were then. Today, you're not doing that. So, and that to me is something that I look like, dang, it's a cold world out here, ain't it? So that's
Yeah.
what I learned.
Yeah, I saw where you're talking about the podcast. You said someone sabotaged it behind the scenes. Yeah. Did you ever find out who that was? Was it was it someone you would expect?
I would expect it now because I know who this person is. That my producer went along with it was the uh, surprising. Well, like I said, it's surprising only in the sense that I'm never amazed at just how grimy people will be, but not surprising because I've seen just how grimy people will be. So it was in that, and it just is one of those things because I don't move that way. It's just one of those things that makes me scratch my head like, damn, but why? Like, really? Um, but as my dad used to say, that's because you're thinking like you. So just come to accept the people who did it for who they are. I'm just like, oh, okay. Well played. All right. And it for me, I'm okay with it because I feel like I did. One, I feel like I did a great job. I'm really proud of the podcast, and I feel like it did what it needed to do, and I gave it my all. So I can go to sleep at night with a feeling good about that.
You think you might start it back up?
I think I might. I keep getting asked this question, and I really think I might. And the only reason I wasn't sold on trying to bring it back initially is because I was like, who want to hear me keep talking about my dad? Like, that in my mind, I was like, nobody want to hear me keep talking about my dad. But people have proved me wrong. Y'all do want to hear me keep talking about my dad. So, I was like, well, okay, um, we can look into that. So I've been looking at I've been having some discussions with some producers lately to see how we can bring it back and what we can do.
I think there's so many interesting things about you too, because I know that you got an undergraduate in psychology, I believe, and then a counseling degree, public speaker. I mean, you are vice president over a foundation.
Well,
You have a story to tell as well, and a lot of interesting things about yourself.
thank you. I do. It's one of those things. I attribute this to my dad. My dad took up so much space, because that's just who he was. And then, he became famous, and that's how people attribute, look at him. And I never had the I want to be famous bug. I never wanted to be seen. So when people are like, talk about you, I'm always left like, I'm just me. I don't, but I know you're right. Like, there's things outside of my dad, because that was the thing that used to irritate me initially once he started becoming famous. I used to get mad at people like, could you stop calling me Bernie Mac's daughter? Because I am a whole person outside of him. So, yeah.
I would be interested in watching the podcast again.
Oh,
So
well, I
definitely.
appreciate that. Okay.
How is it like now that you're a mother, you've just become an empty nester, and I saw you talking about where you're coming to the age where your dad was before he passed, which I was surprised. I was like, I feel like Bernie Mac just passed away like last year.
It's crazy. Like, it'll be 18 years this year.
I saw you talking about how it would be if you weren't here, like who would be here for your daughter and things like that. You posted about that. Where are your thoughts now that you've become an empty nester? What are some things that you're kind of getting into now?
So Okay, so that first part about being an empty nester, what I've learned is that all those feelings, like, I don't, how old are your kids?
Mine are 10 and 7.
Okay, so those are fun ages. I remember 10 and 7, but all the worries and thought, that you have about 10 and 7, they never go away. They never go away. I don't know. I can't say that I honestly expected them to completely go away, but in my mind, I thought, once she graduated from high school, we got her off to school, and I'm still up at night sometimes, like, oh my God, oh my baby's like, oh, she's, who. So that part never goes away. The other part is I still think a lot about, you know, wow, what it. I never dreamed that at 30 my dad would be dead and I'd be in the middle of a divorce and I never dreamed of that. So a lot of my thoughts, even now being an empty nester and telling myself for all this time, this is my time about me, which it still is. I'm still taking time out for me. It's still a lot of my thoughts are consumed with like how can I best set up everything so that my daughter is not out here alone, and what becomes of her if something happens to me. Even with aging, like I'm 48 now, and I don't feel, some people get to 48 because it's closer to 50, and 50 is seen as just like, oh my gosh, I'm 50. I'm excited about 50. Like I'm looking forward to that. I don't take that for granted, and I don't feel like, aging's so hard. Oh, outside of perimenopause, I'm cool. If P Mini could just be nice, I'd be great. So even with aging, I don't have a problem with that. It is though in the back of my mind. Like I said, I'm 48, and I do. It's not even something that I try to think about. It's just there. Like, oh, I remember when my dad was 48. Who knew when my dad was 48 that we only had 2 years left? What if that's the case for me? What if me and Jasmine only had? Those are the thoughts that swirl in my head, unprovoked. So those are a lot of the things that I think about, and I just try to make sure that for the time that I'm here, that I'm living a life of integrity and that I'm doing things that I want, because I'm someone that has spent an exorbitant amount of my life living for other people, doing the things for other people that would make other people, pleased and happy and proud. And then I'm left, feeling resentful and depleted, like, So I do try to make sure that while I'm still, having all of these thoughts over here and I'm caring about, all these people over here, that I'm still making a space for myself to do the things that I want to do, that I enjoy.
Speaking of that, speaking of making sure you're doing the things that you enjoy and now being an empty nester, where did you come? I'm assuming that you started coming to a point before you became an empty nester that you said, you know what, I'm doing too much for others and I'm not doing enough for myself. Like, when did that realization kick in?
So it happens in increments. It happened originally like in my 20s when I was married to my daughter's father. I remember like just looking at, he consumed a lot, and it was a lot of the relationship was as long as he was happy, it was like, oh, I'm happy, so this means we're happy. And for a time that worked until that stopped being good enough for me, and I had to realize like, well, you, whether spoken or unspoken, you agreed to this. So at what point are you going to be happy? And then it had to get deep with myself. Well, what makes you happy? You've spent so much time pleasing everybody else. What makes you happy? So that was when it first started happening. And then my dad died. Like, we were in the middle of a divorce when my dad died. So then once the divorce was finalized, my daughter wasn't even, she just turned 2, I think. So a lot of the time was I'm grieving while I'm trying to raise my daughter. And so I was consumed with a lot of that. And then like in my mid 30s is when the grief started lifting a bit, to where it was like, okay, now, yes, it goes without saying that we want to raise her and we care about her, but what is going to make me happy? happy. So that was when it happened, the next time. Then it came about again once she got, I think, into junior high, because now she's in junior high. She's a little more independent from me. I'm getting more time away because she's in all her extracurriculars. So it's like, okay, because people would ask, well, what you up to? And all I could list off was all my daughter. So, oh, well, on Tuesday she's got this, and then on, when, and people were like, well, what do you do? And I was just like, well, on Tuesdays we take her, so that's when it came again, like, okay, yes, but what do you like? Kind of like in Coming to America, when he's like, I know you know what I like, but I like to know what you like. So it
Yeah.
happened again then. And so it's just I try to do now, what I try to do is intentionally check in with myself, because it's so easy to get into a routine where you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, and you start doing this and going into this, and then before you know it, you've just been doing it because, oh, this is just what I always do. So I try, like, usually every quarter. So like pretty much every season, I'm like checking in with myself. Like, okay, are we happy today? Like, not just today, but are we presently? Are we happy? If not, what can we change to get to happy? So that's how I try to live now.
Yeah, I can imagine, because you're going from, because it's like you're taking a shift in your identity. At one moment you're the daughter of a comedian, so now you're trying to have your own sense of self in that moment, but then you have a daughter, now you're a mother, so you're tending to that identity of just being a mother, but then who am I?
Absolutely. And I used to tell people that all the time. My daughter's birthday, like if I took her to a birthday party or stuff, and some of the moms would know who my dad was. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much me. I was like, if I'm not Bernie Mac's daughter, I'm Jasmine's mom. That's pretty much, that's all I get relegated to. And it's, like I said, it's easy to get used to it. And it gets to a point where, okay, yeah, those are two facets of who I am, but that's not the sum total of who I am. So, yeah, you hit the nose on the head. Yeah, that's the right saying, right? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I saw you speaking about recently was just trying to find a way to teach your daughter that a person's work identity doesn't equate to their value.
Yeah.
Have you found a way to kind of teach her that? And what have you learned? How did you even come to that understanding of that your work identity doesn't equate to your value?
So, again, it was something that happened in increments. Like, I remember specifically graduating with my master's and getting a job with Orleans Parish Criminal Courts in New Orleans. And I remember I got my business cards. And that was such a huge, like, oh, I am legit. I've got business cards. And I think I was like 23, 22, 23, something like that. And I made it. I was like, oh my God, I got business cards. And I worked with a woman. I'm going to call her older because she was older than me. So she was in her 40s, Darlene. And she said, what? You don't know who you are or something? And like, we laughed it off, but it stuck with me because it struck a nerve, because the truth was, no, I didn't know, because I was so stuck on trying to prove myself, not to who I don't know, but it was, I didn't want to keep just getting known as Bernie Mac's daughter. So now I've got this business card that says, look, I'm legit because it says so here with my name and title and all of that. And that was the first moment that I remember being like, she's got a point though. I can't identify with this job isn't it. Another moment that it hit me was, I think I was in my 20s. I hadn't had my daughter yet. It was when my dad got sick. I think it was the second time. No. It was like the third time, like when I was telling you how he was getting hospitalized back to back. So I saw it only because I saw it in my dad, because at that point, he was at the height of his fame. He had the TV show, he had all these movies, and I could see a difference in my dad, because when you have a TV show that centers on you, everything is about you. So when he would come home, you could see it a bit in him that he had this mentality like it's all about me. But there was a moment when he was in the hospital. The studio, the head of Fox had called his manager like, okay, We were understanding the first, time, and then even the second time, but how long is this going to take? Because we've shut down production and this is costing us money and all that. And then after that call, then came Jerry Weintraub, from the producer of the Ocean's movies. And he called while my dad was in the hospital and goes, "Yeah, Bernie, look, we know you're sick or whatever, but we really need to knock this scene out. So how about I send a car to the hospital, have it pick you up. You come to the studio, film your scene, we get you done, and then we send you right back to the hospital." And no one cared that he was sick. And we were like, but if he dies on the set, then what you gonna do?
Wow.
And so I remember it, like you could see the shift in my dad. Like, I'm Bernie Mac. I've got one of the highest watched, highest rated TV shows on the network right now. I've got all of these movies. I'm like the it guy now. And these people don't care whether I live or die. So, and I was watching it like unfold for me, because I'm like, that's my dad. Like, if y'all don't care about him, all the money he's made, y'all, and y'all don't care about, oh, okay. So that was like when it clicked for me again. And then after my dad died, and after I walked away from the Bernie Mac Foundation as being vice president, that's when I was like, okay, well, I got my degrees, I'll get a job. But I couldn't get a job, like, no one would hire me. And it didn't click for me until later, until a friend of mine was like, "Janice, look at your resume. Baby, as soon as people see your name and see Bernie Mac Foundation, and they know who you are, nobody's about to hire you because nobody thinks you need a job." And that hurt my feelings so badly, and I wrestled a lot with that. Like, well, I went to school, I did all this work, and you're telling me I can't get a job? And I did for a long time feel like, well, I'm worthless if I can't even get a job. What good am I? And I said that like repeatedly, to where I had to look like, hold on, but you're raising your daughter, but you're doing, like, you're living a life, and you're doing important things. So just because it's not, making money the way that people think it should, it's not looking the way that people think it should, doesn't mean it's not worthwhile or valid or valuable. And that was when I had to really reconcile that.
Wow, that is a powerful journey of just learning self. I feel like we're always really, if we're insightful, we're kind of tuning in and trying to learn more about who we are, or at least we should be. And, that's a roller coaster of a journey you just kind of expressed right there.
Yeah. It was a lot. And like, I'd love to say that I got the lesson the first time. No, that's probably why I had to keep happening, because I was like, yeah, I hear that, but, and life was like, no, there's no but. Come on back over here. And I was like, yeah, I hear that, but life was like, no, come back over here. There's no but. So, yeah.
I was just looking at some of your achievements as far as, like, I saw that you were an honors student in high school. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So you were on the honor society in high school. You went to college, psychology. You also got a master's in counseling, and being the vice president over the Bernie Mac Foundation, running your own podcast for a bit. So you're a high achiever. What are some of the stresses that you think, the impacts on mental health as far as people who are high achievers like that? You're a mother above all things. You're a mother who's striving and doing everything she can for her daughter, and who has done everything she can for her daughter. What are some of the mental health issues you think impact a lot of people who go through some of those same things?
Oh, anxiety and depression, for sure. Because the thing about being high achieving is that it's very easy to continue to move the goalposts on yourself. So when you're constantly moving the goalposts, then guess what you do? You tell yourself you're failing. You're not meeting the metric, whatever the metric is. And when you get down to it, if someone were to ask you what the metric is, you probably can't even define it. You're like, I don't know. I just know I'm not reaching it. People don't think high achievers need anything. High achievers are the people that people don't think about. People look at you and go, oh, you're fine, you're good. Look at, Yeah, she's smart. Look, he got a good job. Look at all these awards. He good. And so because you look good on paper, nobody bothers to check in with you and ask if you're okay. And even if you tell people you're okay, they're gonna tell y'all, you just walk it off. You strong. Be strong. You got this. The number of times when I've reached out to people and said, "Hey, I'm not doing okay," and the response was, "You got this," and I was left looking like, "But I'm telling you, I don't got this. Like, what are you talking about?" So it's very easy for anxiety and depression to be through the roof with high achievers.
Hmm. What's some advice that you've learned? Well, you've learned for yourself, but that you would give someone else.
In terms of high achieving, so for me, what I've learned is number one, learn how to define whatever it is that you are trying to achieve. Because a lot of times it starts by us trying to achieve things that weren't even our dreams or goals. It was, our parents or grandparents or somebody around us who said, "Oh, this is how you need to be. This is what you need to do." Or you get that first A, or you make that first homework, like whatever it is and you get that first bit of acknowledgement from, your authority figures that makes you go, "Oh, this is what will make me lovable." And you keep going and it just keeps going from there. So learn how to define what is success, what is it that you want to achieve, and how does that look for you? Because otherwise you will keep working towards other people's visions and goals, and you will be exhausted, burnt out, depressed, and just spiraled out.
What are you working on now?
So I am currently working on a documentary that I'm trying to get produced, pretty much about me and my dad. So I'm working on that now. We're like getting it together to start shopping it around. So that's what we're working on now.
Where can people find you? Where can people follow you?
I'm on all the channels, on all the things. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Threads now, I'm on Facebook. Even though I know folks say Facebook's for the old people, but I'm still on there. I do have a YouTube channel. Like, so if you want to watch, you want to catch up on the podcast, the Bernie's Daughter podcast is still up. So you, at Bernie's Daughter podcast, you can find it on there. And I do have my own channel. I haven't been active on YouTube in a while, but the rest of them, I come in and out. I haven't, because my daughter, like I said, she went to school and we moved and all that. So I haven't been as active as I used to be, but I'm still on all of those channels. And it's Bernie, so I made it easy for y'all. It's Bernie's Daughter.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's been fast.
Make sure to like and subscribe.